What's up, YouTube? Eugene here. Hope you're all well. Today we're going to be looking at Dawn from Frederic Malle, which is part of the Desert Gems collection, marketed to the Middle East, the Arab nation who's obsessed with perfume and oud, and probably one of the biggest consumers of fragrance in general. I got a comment not too long ago on one of my videos asking for me to translate my videos in Arabic and my channel would blow up. And if I knew how, I would definitely consider it, or at least I'll look into it. I thought that was really interesting. Never got a comment like that before, but I guess there must not be a whole lot of content in Arabic. I'm not really sure. I've never looked into it, nor would I know how to even search that. But so this is definitely an oud-based perfume. Saw a lot of, interesting reviews. Having Dawn compared to the night, saying they're similar. Dawn has no oud, and I'm gonna kind of disagree on both aspects. Is it similar to the moon? In ways, yeah, they're alike, but they're very different once you get to know them. The moon to me is much more animalic. Well, they're both animalic, but the moon to me is much more barnyard skanky, very, very dirty, very animal-like, almost like you're out to pasture. Oud is definitely the strongest note in the moon. Sorry, in the night. And although Dawn has a huge concentration of oud in it as well, it's not as challenging. The oud isn't as bold. It isn't as dirty, animal-like. It's still dirty, but it's much more humanistic in nature. It's still very provocative. It's very daring. It leaves a very conspicuous image in my head. Almost more flattering than the night. The night to me is like a hemorrhaging 2,000 kilo oxen. I find the Dawn almost more lustful. I don't want to say intimate. Intimate almost seems like, love between two lovers. This is more lust between a man and his mistress. It's very provocative and very interesting. But the oud is very oily to me, and I'm not claiming to be an oud connoisseur by any means. I'm not, man, there was a time where I hated oud, especially Western oud. That scratchy synthetic stuff, the dry woody ambers, drove me nuts, and I didn't care for it at all. But getting to know this collection and some other higher end ouds lately, I'm much more able to appreciate oud for its really beautiful natural elements. And to me, this is much more oily oud, like oud oil, than it would be a smoky oud. Although it's got a lot of smoke in it, there's this huge bed of frankincense in the Dawn, and it's quite smoky, it's dry, it's dusty, and it definitely reminds me of churchy incense, very resinous, almost tarry. So it's more goth than church. It's more like an old cathedral, and it all kind of starts there. The sin starts in the cathedral, because I get the old dry dusty pews, very woody fragrance. Of course it's oud, but very smoky. So it's like after hours, when the worshipers have gone home and it's now after hours, and the candles have been snuffed out, but you can still, the incense has been snuffed out, but it's still lingering heavily in the air. And the oud to me is very, it's oily and it's still fecal in a human element, and it's just, you know, fornicating with a mistress and in the act of sodomy. And with every thrust, you get a new whiff of oud oil. Yeah, it's kind of what it reminds me of. A lot of sandalwood in this fragrance. Sandalwood is, I think, right after the oud and the frankincense, sandalwood is most prominent to me as well. It's very creamy. It's dark. It's milky. So it really contrasts that, the dryness of, you know, the frankincense and the oud. So you got that really nice contrast playing off each other. Lots of browns in there, of course. What other color would it be? Now the rose, I get the least amount of rose in Dawn than I do in all the other perfumes. You know, I get a lot of rose in the Night. I get a lot of rose in Promise and the Moon. And in Dawn, I get the least amount. And I don't even know if it's worth mentioning, like rose. Interesting. I don't find it, you know, a traditional oud, rose oud based perfume. I think I almost get more patchouli than I do rose. But they also list vetiver and oak moss in the base, and you know, that's also very, very, very subtle. It doesn't even add much greenness. If anything, it's just kind of adds a little bit of freshness to offset all that dark, dry browns, if you know what I mean. But there's some amber in here, golden hues of amber, which are nice, and they really flare once your skin warms up, and they can get quite resinous. Yeah, so I'd say it's mostly browns and golden colors, and the ambers really come out in the base, and it gets a little bit leathery, but I wouldn't call this or consider a leathery perfume at all. And it doesn't get powdery either. It's just mostly oud going right through, spicy oud. As far as spices, I get mostly black pepper. It's a very peppery perfume, and clove. I get another dry clove, which again adds another element of dryness and woodiness. And you got that freshness at the base. It definitely doesn't have the teeth as the Night, but you know, not, and that's okay. That's not, you know, it's not a negative. That's not a stab at the Dawn. Just that the Night is so overwhelmingly powerful, and this is much more subtle. But it's definitely not weak, and it definitely doesn't lack in the oud department. The Night is just like saturated with oud, like really barnyardy fecal oud. As far as I'm concerned, I think it's a fantastic collection, and you know, there was a time where I was like, man, this is way too many ouds, way too much. You know, I think the first one was released in 2014. The Night was 2014, and then they missed a couple of years, and then came Promise, and I think it was 2017. 2018 was Dawn, and 2019 was the Moon. So in 5 years, you know, 4 desert gems, which are quite pricey, and I thought it was a little bit too much. But you know, after getting to know these, they're all pretty much brilliant. You know, I love them all for different reasons. I think the Night's going to become my Christmas Eve traditional scent, just because it's a special day and this is a special perfume. I love the Moon just for what it is. The Moon is completely different than all of them. I think the Moon is the most unique from the 4. Somebody keeps, one of my viewers keeps harassing me to film a review on the Moon, and I will, Just give me some time. It's not like, you know, we just come here, we plunk down in front of a camera and start reviewing. It takes a whole lot more time than that. But as far as I'm concerned, you know, I wouldn't be upset if they were to release another one, just because of how good they are. And I would definitely be all over it. I think it's just something that Oud's here to stay. It's not going anywhere. It's literally become the perfume pop culture, and I think the more people become aware, the more it'll be accepted. And you know, we're already seeing with I know in Toronto there's the demographics have changed a lot. We're getting a lot of Middle Easterners here, so a lot of Middle Easterners that I work with have noticed, and they know what Oud is, and they've referenced it off of me, where, you know, the homegrown locals have no idea what it is. But I think with a lot of those changes, it'll just be easier, you know, to wear Oud, especially skanky Oud. But there you go, my review of Dawn. If you've tried Dawn, let me know what you think of it. I'd love to hear your comments down below. Carlos Benign, I think he did a fantastic job. Quite different than Dominique Ropion's Night. It's much more linear, but it's got a really nice glow to it, a nice aura. So, man, linear is a bad word. I don't want to use linear, because this does keeps my mind occupied all day, and it keeps my mind focused, so my mind's not wandering. When I wear this, my mind's not wandering, and I've got, you know, my mind on the Dawn. So linear's a bad word, but when you create some body heat, it really radiates and throws itself off you. And it's got that beautiful contrast of dryness and creamy sandalwood. So I think he did a fantastic job. I really like what he's done with the brand. His style is much different than Ropion's. Ropion's got these long looping accords. You know, it's like, man, he never knows when to kick in that chorus. It's just like verse, 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 and then he'll throw in a chorus like half hour later. Whereas you know, it's just like I don't know how to explain it, but it is what it is. I don't know. This is just much more. It radiates differently. His style is much different than Ropion's. That's all I'm trying to say. I don't know what I'm trying to say. Anyway, never mind the Bullocks. Here come the Sex Pistols. Guys, we'll see you in the next one.